Okay, now this isn't necessarily a response video to synch1216, but it is a, it's a topic point. What I'm going to talk about is stuff that he talked about in his video, which is not neuro-linguistic programming, but the idea of utilizing the meditative process to objectify the subjective phenomena, whatever. The idea of objectifying that experience or yourself, the process of the mind, body, and the consciousness itself, even. The way I describe it, and I think that this perspective is in fact what would be the choral tier of the spiral dynamics. It doesn't necessarily have to be under the specific diction or whatever, but it is, I think, the next stage of how we view ourselves. And of course, this isn't, I don't think, a revolutionary idea. I think people have kind of had the idea already, the idea that it's a computer and all this other stuff, but it incorporates a little bit more into it. It's a little bit more complex than that. The idea is that our bodies are a console, like a video game or a computer console. And our tools and implementation devices, like our hands. Our hands are, grabbers and feelers and shit, robotic arms, basically. The console comes with legs and arms. I mean, that's what better a machine could you possibly create than a nanomachine, nanotech robot with console computer included. I mean, that's just amazing. But regardless, basically we are avatars, and this is the part that's a little bit more complex. We are avatars for the user, because if this is a console or a console to interact with the universe, or the what the internet would be, or whatever, the MMORPG aspect of it, we are avatars. What are we avatars of? The idea of the reality or the universe, and I guess I'll explain this the same way Terence McKenna does. The same way that an atom is kind of self-similar to a solar system, and then a solar system to a galaxy. In the same way, we are self-similar to the reality that we are existing in itself. Okay, we can only be representations of the universe, because where else could our basic makeup get a reference for? Okay, it has to be a representation of reality itself. So we are avatars, each of us, of existence, and basically infinity. Infinity is the Mandelbrot set. Okay, infinity is displayed by the Mandelbrot set, so we can better understand this pattern that we are examples of by looking into the idea of infinity. Now, this idea, the reason that I think it's the choral is because it does include all of the different aspects. It does include the idea of universality, of the me not being an other, and the other not being an other, and all of this. We are all one in the fact that we are all representations of the same thing. And the thing is, we may be basically clones of one another. As Thunderfoot said in one of his recent videos, we're basically clones. But the subtle difference that physically, even physically, is enough to make drastic, different looking, at least, apparently, creations, okay? And then, of course, up here, we're all completely different. And our perspectives are absolutely our own. The Mandelbrot set would indicate that each and every one of us is unique, which we are, in a very subtle way, I guess, scientifically, but observably we are all very much unique. The reason being is that we are all representations of this infinite pattern. Now, as far as the whole meditation thing, and I'd like to get into that too because that's interesting to me, the whole idea of meditation coming from basically a identification with the non-personality that is your consciousness, using the using what you are, who you really are, what you really are, to objectify this thing, this one, this person. So, and I've given different techniques, like looking in the mirror and kind of getting really close up to it and shit like that, and then focusing on behind the eyes rather than at the image. Different things like that I think are really good, but I think as far as the neuro-linguistic programming and stuff is concerned, one of the first fundamental things that starts to change when you start to become awake is the way you look at language. The fact that we have this kind of ego-structured language really is a very big indicator of where our heads are at as a society, as a general culture, and that of course has been the way it's been for a long time. But yeah, once you start to become awake, you start to realize the way we use I in a sentence. My way of thinking about it is I is hungry, not I am hungry. Sounds like caveman language when you realize that I is something other than yourself. It's not what yourself is, and I'm not trying to make a dualistic thing, but what I'm saying is that the real identification goes with consciousness itself. So once you realize that that's what you really are, you want this body and everything like that, the machine is hungry. Okay, so never would a truly aware person say, of course, never would they say, I am hungry, because that makes pure identification with the thing that is hungry, whereas in actuality, just about with any kind of identification with the self, there is an automatic disability to recognize the unity of all things. And of course, once you realize this pattern of infinity, it's almost it really is undeniable that you are one with everyone, and it's not just a concept or an idea. It's a radical realization. It's a radical truth from, of course, what we've been trained to think is the common truth. That is that I am other from everyone else and everything else. It radically changes the way you look at life. I suggest everybody look into Terence McKenna on this issue, because his ideas into fractal geometry and everything are phenomenal. They really are. Basically, he's already explained it for me. He didn't know about Ken Wilber, but he explained basically the highest realization of universal truth that could possibly be realized. I guess I'm done.